What's up, guys? Today is February 28th, 2025. It is a Friday. I am Jordan Hunt. That is Stephen Teal, and this is Beanball Buzz. Well, I didn't fade that out the way I planned on it, but that's okay. Again, thank you guys for stopping in with us. Again, I'm Jordan Hunt. This is Stephen Teal with me today. We're going to be talking today about the National League East. I kind of want to do a review of each division in baseball. Kind of go over the PECOTA rankings and everything that came out earlier this month. It came out in early February. And then, we'll talk about some of the subtractions and stuff like that they did, that each team made, or, where they got better, where they may have gotten worse. But before we get into that, Steven, how are you today?
Good, man. Good. Glad to be back again for another day of talking baseball. So things are
Yeah.
going well.
Yeah. It's spring. We're starting to get settled into, the routine of watching a game every day again. I don't know how involved you get with spring training, but I like to watch the competitions and stuff. And this year, as a Braves fan, we actually have kind of an intriguing competition for the bullpen.
Yeah.
The rotation is somewhat of a competition. I think we all kind of know what's going to end up happening there, but it's just refreshing to have baseball on TV each day.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
wake up with a little more excitement that we're one day closer to
Yeah.
opening day each day. So let's jump
Absolutely.
right in. Like I said, talk about PECOTA first. In the National League East, PECOTA has the Braves finishing first again. They had a little bit of a rough year last year with injuries. Everything kind of everything that could have gone against the Braves went against the Braves last year. 6 seasons prior to that, they had won the National League East. So PECOTA seems to believe in them to get right back on track.
Yep.
I do think it's interesting that they've got the Mets over the Phillies, because a lot of people around the game still love the Phillies. I don't hate the Phillies. I think that they're getting older, and they're depending on a lot of health and stuff. And then, of course, the Nationals and the Marlins kind of finish it out with, honestly, I think they're pretty low on the Nationals.
Yeah, I would agree.
Personally,
Yeah.
I see them winning 75 games, but that's, yet to be seen. There are, 3 really good teams in this division. So we'll see how that goes. What do you think about that? About the Braves being
Um,
favored there by PECOTA?
I mean, it's first time I think I can't remember how long it's been since they've kind of favored the Braves in first place. Dakota's typically not very high on the Braves. I
Yeah,
think
I
last year
think.
they didn't pick us.
Yeah, no. Last year they did pick us.
Oh, okay.
But it's funny because like the previous 6 years before that, they did not pick us,
That's
and
right.
they won the division each of those years. Finally, PECOTA said, "All right, we're gonna pick the Braves finally," and then the
Maybe they
Braves
shouldn't
just
have.
fell apart. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it's
I do think it's gonna be 93 wins is gonna be tough.
yeah,
I
it
think
is.
every team's gonna be at the top 3 are gonna be lucky to have 90. Um, I do think the Phillies are being favored. Like being third's a little weird. Um, but they do struggle against the Mets, so maybe they're kind of weighing that factor in there a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I think you're right. Nationals, they might win 80 games. I don't know. They've
They have a
improved every
lot of
year.
young talent. A lot of people don't love their off season, or at least a lot of fans. I agree. The NL East is going to be a bloodbath. You're right, Bo.
Except for the
Uh,
Marlins. Except for the
by
Marlins.
the way, Showtime LA, I'm pretty sure that's Bo. Just make sure that I'm right if that is you, Bo. So, um, but yeah, I agree that the Nationals, we've seen their pitching developing over the last couple years. Jake Irvin, I mean, while he had some rough times with other teams, he dominated the Braves. And then, Mackenzie Gore is it seems like Mackenzie Gore is on the cusp of turning into a star.
Hmm.
There's a lot of talent over there, and they're only going to get better. They've got
Absolutely.
coming up soon. Dylan Cruz is up. James Wood. It, they've got a lot of really good players, and they traded for
Yeah.
Nathaniel Lowe. We'll get into the additions and subtractions in a little bit,
Yeah.
but I thought that was an interesting ad for them because I had predicted they would go out and sign Pete Alonso. I
Yeah.
thought they wanted a first baseman badly. I thought they were going to go out and overpay Pete Alonso to get him to come be their 2025 version of Jason Worth. Where
Yeah.
they overpaid Jason Worth a ton of money back in the day to come be that veteran presence. But the Nathaniel Lowe move was pretty savvy. I got to give him some
Oh
props.
yeah.
I kind of hope they extend him. I think he's a really good fit for that ballpark and
Yeah.
that up. And
They've needed a good first baseman for a while since Zimmerman left.
right, yeah, they have, yeah. And we can dive into them a little bit more in a few minutes,
Yeah.
but that's my
I
my outlook on the Nationals is
I
they're going to be
think
better than
the
Pacoda believes.
I think the division's going to come down to who beats the Marlins and Nationals more. Honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a little bit different from back in the day, because
Hmm.
we only play intra-division teams 13 times now as opposed to 19 times in the future. If
Yep.
you played this Marlins team 19 times and you're the Braves, you might win 17 games. Like they're
Yeah.
they're really, really, really bad. That's something I want to go over later.
Yeah.
I kind of wrote down an extra little section for the Marlins, just the list of players they have traded away just in the past calendar year, and it's depressing. If you're a Marlins fan, it's
Yeah.
pretty sad. So
Yeah. Showtime. I mean, it could be. I mean, his ERA's gone down every year he's pitched. I think it was
yeah,
down to 3.9 last year. So all signs point to yeah, it could be the year he figures it all out. All it takes is some confidence. So I could see it.
and he has the stuff to do it. Mackenzie
Hmm.
Gore's a very talented pitcher. He just, like you said, he's in that early stage of his career where he's still learning. And I mean, he's still only 26. You're right. He had 3.9. He had a 3.9 ERA last year with 3.53 FIP. So,
Yeah, that's
and
pretty decent,
made
honestly.
all 32 of his starts. That there's a lot to like there. Velo was up.
Yeah,
It's
that's always good.
it's going to be. I think it's going to be a big year for Mackenzie Gore. I'm sure National fans would love for that to happen. And
Yeah, they've needed some joy since 2019.
yeah, they have. It's been a rough few years. Uh, so, anyways, let's jump into kind of our. I don't want to call it predictions, but we'll just look at each one of these Pacoda numbers, and you give me an over or under where you think they're going to be. Uh, I think I kind of know where you're going to go. So we'll start with the Braves. Pacoda predicts them to be 93 and 69, which they're the only ones with a solid number here, or a,
Yeah.
even number there. 93 and 69. I think you pretty much just said under a minute ago on that.
Yeah. I'm thinking 89-90 tops.
Yeah,
Again, that's going to depend on a lot. They could come out like the 2023 Braves and just
they could.
outslug everybody and win 100 games. Who knows?
And a lot of it depends on health there as
Exactly.
well.
So
Health
I'm
has been
I'm
a
going to
big
take the
thing for the
under.
Braves.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
take the under on the Braves. Pretty much on everybody except for the Nationals. Um,
Yeah.
for the Mets, I'm going to say about 80 something wins, 80, 85 maybe. Maybe 87, somewhere around there. Um, but Nationals definitely are going to take the over. I think 75 is probably your number 75. That makes the most sense, I think. Miami,
Yeah.
they might lose more than 60 games or more than 100
I
games. I don't know.
they might lose 110, man. They're pretty
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. They
I
did
in fact
nothing. So,
I went and looked at their they added Cal Quantrill.
oh, that's right. My mistake.
So that pretty much eats up my entire Marlins ad section for later. They didn't do much. Of course, the Braves didn't do a whole lot either, but they did at least give out a multi-year
True.
deal to somebody.
That's true.
But the thing I was gonna say is with the Braves, I'm with you that this division is going to be tough to win 95 plus games in.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to do that. But 93 is a pretty solid number for what I think the Braves can do if healthy in this division. So I'm not going to take the over or under. I'm going to take even. I'm going to say 93 is the number.
I'd be thrilled
Mets,
with that.
yeah, I agree. I think the Mets are going to be a little bit under. I'm thinking between 88 and 90 games is probably what they win. The Phillies are interesting because we know they're a good team. The core is all still there, but the majority of them are over the age of 30 at this point. And you have to start wondering at what point are we going to see a little bit of regression just because, Mother Nature is undefeated. Or excuse me, Father Time is undefeated. Mother Nature is also undefeated, but that's not where we're going here.
Yeah,
And then,
I mean, the
of
Phillies
course,
did make some good moves that we'll get to, but that I think
but
helped them. But you're right. The age thing is going to be a big factor for them at some point.
yeah, but I also think 85.7, the number that Pacoda predicts, that feels a little bit low to me.
Hmm.
So I'm right there in the same window with the Mets, but somewhere between 87 and 90 games really feels kind of like that sweet spot. Now, maybe I have a little bit of bias or uh, optimism for the Braves, a little more optimism for the Braves, but it's because I know those players really well. When healthy, I know what they can do. So
Absolutely.
it's a little bit of that, but
Hmm.
Nats and Marlins, yeah, Nats are definitely winning more than 67.7 games. And I feel like the Marlins are definitely losing less than 60.7. Or, I mean, winning less than 60.7.
I would agree.
There's, I looked at the Marlins roster just a few minutes ago before we came on here, and there were genuinely half the names on the team. This is 40-man roster. Not just talking about, you know, what they have at camp, non-rosters and all that stuff. Their
Yeah.
40-man roster. I didn't recognize half the names on there. And I was like, I don't even know who half of these guys are. And they're in our division. So that's always telling if you can look at the roster and be like, Well, we'll see because I don't know who any of these guys are. It's not a good sign. But, anyways, we'll jump into some of their moves and stuff that happened with each team. Of course, we'll start with the Braves because again they picked to win the division. Braves added Jurickson Profar, 3 years, $42 million. They pretty much didn't do anything else as far as major league deals go, even though we had a little bit of news last night that apparently Terry McGurk is saying, yeah, there's still some quote unquote dry powder money out there, which is, if you know what that means we've already allotted to have this money spent. So we're going to spend it. We just don't know when we're going to spend it.
Yep.
So we'll see if they can, there's a couple nice names still out there on the free agency market. Maybe they swing a trade.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? But, some of the other names that they added on minor league deals that are major league talent, Brian De La Cruz, Anuel De Los Santos, Buck Farmer, who is, I think most people think he's going to make the roster, Jake Diekman. So there's some nice depth. I noticed that the Braves focused heavily on trying to create depth within the organization this offseason, which makes a lot of sense because last year when all the injuries started, they were really struggling to find some depth and even ended up, plucking a few important pieces off of the scrap heap pile and turned them into, solid players for them. So do you have anything to say about the additions there? Or,
I mean, we could have done a little bit more. I think, I understand why they did it. I mean, the depth for the bullpen, I kind of get, overspending for a bullpen arm.
Yeah.
Tough to do when you could just trade later in the season. I would have liked to see them pick up a starting pitcher, especially when Andrew Heaney, like somebody like that, goes for $5 million. But we know we have a lot of young starting pitchers that they believe in. I know that we know for sure that Grant Holmes is going to be in the rotation. They've kind of solidified that they believe in him. I'll be honest with you, the way Elder and Anderson have pitched so far, I know it's early in spring. I think AJ Smith-Shawver might actually surprise everybody and make the opening day roster.
I agree, especially if, his first outing the other day was very good.
Mm-hmm.
So if he continues that throughout spring training and the other names you mentioned, Bryce Elder and Ian Anderson, they continue to struggle, I think we'll see Elder back in, AAA again. And now Ian Anderson's out of options.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens there. He could also be the long man in the bullpen, right? So
yeah, exactly.
We'll see where that goes. But subtractions for the Braves is not a fun list to look at. Travis d'Arnaud, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, AJ Minter. I even listed Whit Merrifield, Gio Urshela, and Ramon Laureano, Jorge Soler, who we traded away. And then I also listed Joe Jimenez just because.
Important too.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, we're looking at that as we lost that guy, and they may not get him back. So that's a big loss in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm. And then I think Jeff Francoeur was talking to 680 The Fan a couple of days ago or yesterday maybe, and talked about how the biggest question mark we have is 7th and 8th inning. We've got the guys that can handle the other innings, but I mean, those are two important innings that hopefully people like Buck Farmer or Jake Diekman, hope God we don't have to depend on them, but maybe Daysbel Hernandez comes out and becomes the guy they hoped he's going to be. I mean that's my biggest thing is this is a lot of big names that we lost.
Yeah, and I think I'm right there with you about the 7th and 8th inning. That is to me the biggest hole right now. But I also I can't deviate from my natural instinct to say that a bullpen is a crapshoot
Yeah.
almost every year. So you're going to have guys who underperform, and you're going to have guys who step up and surprise you that you didn't expect to step up and surprise you. And that's the story with almost every single year. Like a year ago, nobody knew who Grant Holmes was,
Yeah. True.
right? I mean, he was just a random minor league name. Now we're talking about him being in the rotation for the Braves. But he stepped up and had a lot of very important innings in that bullpen for the Braves last year. So I don't worry so much about that if I'm a Braves
Yeah.
fan, which I am a Braves fan. So I'm trying to look at this from a unbiased point of view. But I am a Braves fan, so I know a little bit more about the Braves. But I am with you on the starter thing. That, to me, that would have been more important, because if you get a starter, you push another guy to the bullpen, it solves multiple issues with one move.
Hmm.
And I think that would have been bigger for the Braves. But that's
Yeah,
not
and
what happened.
I know they're looking at it as Spencer Strider's coming back. He's seems like he's wanting to start opening day. But we know that's not going
Yeah.
to happen. But he's going to come back, and that's where the whole Ian Anderson, Grant Holmes proved he can be a relief arm in the bullpen. Ian Anderson could do it too. So that it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it would have been good to add a starter, but at the same time, you might have pushed out somebody that's ready to be there, and then they go to another team. I don't know. Anything could happen. So we're just gonna have to wait and see if it's the right decision or not.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, and Bo is right. Quintana is still out there. So
Somehow, I
we
don't
don't
know. I don't
don't
understand.
know what's going on with that. There was a report a couple days ago that he had been pulled from the WBC qualifiers because of a contractual obligation to one of the 30 major league teams. That's been multiple days, and we
Huh.
have not heard about a signing anywhere. So that's interesting. I think a lot of people at that point, especially because that report came on the heels of the Mets finding out that they were going to be without Sean Manaea for a little while.
Oh, that's true.
So it kind of it felt like, oh, okay, he's just going to go back to the Mets, but nobody signed him yet, or at least that we know. So he's out there. The Braves could go out there and make that move. They say they've got dry powder money. Go make the move. Go get the guy.
Yeah,
Or
why not?
David Robertson. Like, they're out there.
I'm very surprised he's out there still too.
Go get these guys. I don't understand. So anyways, we won't make this a whole podcast about the Braves. Steven and I could probably do that quite easily,
Probably. Yeah.
but that's not what this is about, and that's fine. The the New York Mets, probably one of the teams that most people would say won the offseason. I think the
Oh yeah.
Dodgers absolutely won the offseason, but just a step down from that was the New York Mets, and they could have made the one move of adding Juan Soto and done virtually nothing else, and their fan base would be ecstatic because they have Juan Soto for 15 years. But that's not what they did. They added Juan Soto. They went out and got Clay Holmes, turned him into a starter. The early returns on that in spring training, of course, it is just spring training, but the early returns look fantastic. The guy looks like he's going to do just fine. Frankie Montas, who's already injured, going to be out, honestly, close to half the season, it looks like. Our guy in Atlanta, AJ Minter, gave him a 2-year deal. And then another guy the Braves cut loose, Griffin Canning. And then they traded for Jose Siri.
Yeah, it's a pretty good haul, I would say.
Pretty good offseason
And then
for.
Clay Holmes is going to be starting for him, which is going to be interesting to see. Um, I was surprised to see that they're going to go with that.
I think it's interesting for a team like the Mets because they have all this money. They could
Yeah.
have gone out and got Corbin Burns, or they could have gone out and got Max Fried, but that's not what they did. And it honestly, as a Braves fan, it scares me a little bit because it tells me that they have a smart GM now
Yeah.
who acts a lot like Alex Anthopoulos. And the last thing I want is the New York Mets doing smart things. But here we are, and they are doing that in 2025. So, but yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. It's an interesting approach to the rotation. And some of the early injuries are already creating some concerns, but they've also got depth. I would say they've got more starting pitching depth than the Braves have for sure.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
at least major league depth,
Experienced. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
experience depth. They got Blackburn, they got McGill, they've got Canning. Like they've got a lot of guys who can step into that
Yeah.
role.
Forgetting all about Senga. Can't forget him.
Yeah. Yeah. And Senga's a stud, man. I mean,
Yeah.
he missed virtually the entire year last year. He made that one start against the Braves through like 4 innings and then,
Yeah.
popped his calf or whatever and then showed back up in the postseason and looked fairly well or looked
Yeah.
fairly good in the postseason.
Forkball is gross,
So
man.
yeah, it's a nasty pitch. It's a nasty pitch. But they also did lose some guys that are going to have an effect. Iglesias being the biggest name that they lost, which is wild because last year the guy signs you know what? Iglesias is still out there.
He is, yeah. Still a free
After
agent.
what he did last year, you feel like a team somewhere would have already grabbed that guy up just based on his vibes. But
Yeah.
that hasn't happened either. So he was the catalyst for that clubhouse turnaround and stuff. They lost JD Martinez, Harrison Bader, Adam Ottavino, who Mets fans couldn't get out of there quick enough. Jose Quintana, who we've been talking about, Phil Maton, who was one of their deadline acquisitions. They lost him. So
Yeah,
they
I'm
did lose
surprised
some
by
pieces
Maton a
too.
little bit. He's
He's
got
still out
decent
there.
numbers.
Yeah, he's still out there.
I'm surprised nobody's picked him up. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he's a big ground ball guy too.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of room for I guess failure there. Whenever you're a ground ball pitcher, like sure things can not go your way for an outing or so, but ground ball guys, they get outs. That's what they do. And he's still out there this late in the offseason. And he could probably be had for a minor league deal at this point, but he's still
Hmm.
out there. So it's I don't know. It's a weird offseason for sure.
It has been. I agree.
So Phillies made a couple decent moves. They traded for Luzardo, signed Max Kepler to a 1-year, $10 million deal. I was pissed when that move happened because as a Braves fan, I was like, why are we not getting that guy? Perfectly happy now knowing that's because they wanted Profar.
Yeah.
So perfectly happy with that at this point. At that point, I was pretty upset with that deal. I was like, there's no reason the Braves should have let that happen. But there was a good reason. We just didn't know yet. And then Jordan Romano, who's a name I think baseball kind of forgot about the last 2 years
Yeah.
because he's been injured and he's looked pretty good in spring training thus far. So each one of these is, how would I say this? A little bit of a gamble, right? Each one of these moves is a little bit of a gamble, but there's
Luzardo
also
definitely.
Luzardo, Kepler, who had a down year last year, Romano, who's coming off injury, but
Joe
there's
Ross. We've seen the Braves kill him, so.
oh, I forgot about Joe Ross. I didn't even write him down.
I got you.
But Joe Ross, he did okay for the Brewers, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. I think he did okay. I can't remember his
I thought
numbers,
so.
but
Yeah.
um, I think he's going to end up taking the spot that they lost with Spencer Turnbull.
Turnbull. That's what I was just about to say. I think they got him to be a Turnbull guy. But I think that all of those additions, while they may have a low, they have a low floor a little bit with potential for injury,
Hmm.
and maybe Kepler is just getting old. Who knows? Um, but then you've got some pretty high upside in those moves too. I think
Hmm.
so.
Absolutely.
So the
They're,
Phillies
I
had
think the
decent
biggest thing with
offseason.
them, their bullpen took the biggest hit. I think losing Hoffman, Estevez was okay, but he's still a decent arm. Um, so I mean they replaced both of those roles with Romano and Ross, but um, I think losing Hoffman's a pretty big deal. I thought he was one of their best
I think so
pitchers.
too.
So
I think
we'll
so
see.
too.
Again, it's kind of a toss up with these top three teams, honestly.
Yeah. Estevez was a little bit iffy at times. He, you know, he gave up the grand slam to Lindor in
That's
the
right.
postseason, and if I was a
He sure
Phillies fan, I'd
did.
be like, get him off the team. Like I don't want him here anymore.
Oh, I'm sure
It was
they're
Craig.
ecstatic. I'm sure.
Yeah, it was Craig Kimbrell the year before giving up the home run to Alec Thomas, and then
Oh God,
yeah, so
I forgot about
the
that.
couple bullpen meltdowns really hurt the Phillies the last couple years. So losing Hoffman, that hurts. That hurts. Um, Turnbull, Colby Allard, Braves legend.
I
Uh,
forgot about him.
yeah, Bo, I don't know, man. Painter, that guy's wherever Painter ends up pitching this season, he's gonna be in Philadelphia at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
We all
very,
know
very good.
their strength is the rotation and
Right.
top half of their lineup really strong.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's where, like I said, we talked about the age and stuff like that. That's where the age
Yeah,
comes into play. Could be a factor. The Phillies have had incredible luck when it comes to pitching health with
yeah,
Nola and Wheeler. So I, I operate in a world where likelihoods happen, and at some point, injuries will happen. Um,
yeah.
And
Oh,
that's
we
not to
know.
say that I want them to happen, Phillies fans. That's not what I'm saying. I'm a huge Aaron Nola fan, huge Zach Wheeler fan. I wanted both of them on the Braves. But at some point, it it gets a little scary when you're leaning on it that hard. Hold on just a second, guys. My mic tripped here.
Gotta love it.
Yeah. Well, and get it plugged back in. I'll get it hooked back up, I promise.
We still hear you okay without it, so
Yeah, it's coming through my headphones at this point. Well, may end up having to finish on my headphones. It's not what I want. There it is. Hold on just a moment. Okay, can you hear me better now?
yeah, I got you.
Okay, cool. So, anyways, um, next I was going to talk about the Nationals. Don't want to spend too much time on the Phillies. I really didn't do too much to be able to talk about them that long. The Nationals did actually have a decent offseason. They made some pretty good additions.
Absolutely.
They added Michael Soroka. Sorry, I still struggle with that. Nathaniel Lowe. They brought back Josh Bell. They added Ahmed Rosario.
That's right.
I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give this a give this my best effort on this one. Shinisoki Ogasawara. If I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, my apologies. I've not heard anybody say it yet, so I don't know how it's pronounced. But they brought him in to be a starting pitcher, and then they signed Paul DeJong on a 1-year deal for $1 million. That was kind of wild to me.
Yeah, with the season he had last year, absolutely. That was kind of shocking.
I thought maybe the
But
Braves
yeah,
would give him $2 million to be their shortstop. But
honestly, would have been
yeah,
fine with that.
so yeah, I would have been too. They lost a good bit of guys too. Some of these guys were trade guys. They got traded away. I did kind of the same thing with the Marlins and just wrote down trades and stuff. Tanner Rainey, they
Yeah.
non-tendered Tanner Rainey, which is crazy because I thought Rainey was going to be a really good bullpen piece for them for a long time, and
RC a
just
disrespect.
yeah, yeah, I know. Hey, look, as long as the rest of the Braves lineup performs, they shouldn't have an issue there. His defense is good, fine. But also, Paul DeJong got $1 million. It's like they could have done that. They could have. But, anyways, I digress. Nationals lost Joey Gallo. I don't think they see that as a loss.
No, Patrick Corbin either.
They, yeah, Patrick Corbin. Now, the innings that they lost with Patrick Corbin
That's fair.
is a loss. But,
That's a fair point.
yeah.
Performance
But,
wise, though, maybe not.
yeah, performance-wise, they're quite happy to be out from underneath that deal. But like I said, some of these were trades. So Lane Thomas, he got traded away at the deadline. Jesse Winker at the deadline. Dylan Floro at the deadline. And then I wrote down Joey Meneses, Stone Garrett, Jordan Weems, who signed with the Braves, and then Ildemaro Vargas, who had been their utility guy the last couple of years. So they lost some pieces, but nothing that was like, dang, we're going to miss that guy in the future. It was
Absolutely. Yeah.
the Stone Garrett DFA kind of shocked me yesterday because he's got a 125 weighted runs created plus for him. But I guess to them, their thought process was, we've got a lot of young guys. Don't want to be blocking him with a guy who could be, a platoon bat somewhere else. So maybe they kind of did it to help him out too. So
yeah, that's possible. For sure.
So we talked about the Nationals a little bit. Seems like you and I both seem to like them better than some of the projections for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, we just went over a lot of additions. Again, depends on performance, but
right.
I mean, there's a lot of potential in a lot of these names. I think I saw Lucas Sims, former Braves prospect.
Oh yeah, they did. They signed Lucas Sims too.
He ended up hitting 98, I think, in his MLB tryout or whatever he did, which I was like,
Wow.
that's shocking. He was not throwing that hard a few years ago.
No, he was not.
But I think they got a good core. I mean, you got young guys like Dylan Cruz out there who's only going to get better. I mean, he's a damn good center fielder.
James Wood is nasty.
Yeah, James Wood. I mean,
that guy's going to be really
we've
good.
already talked about the rotation a little bit. They got really good young pitchers, so
yeah, and they've
got potential.
They've still got some other players coming up as well. Brady House,
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and of course they've got. Oh man, I'm blanking on his name right now. Why am I blanking on his name? What's their shortstop's name? Kid from Atlanta, the one that
Oh no, why'd you put me on the spot?
ah,
His name's right on the
I
tip of
can't
my
believe
tongue.
I know.
Guess I'll just have to Google that real quick. Sorry,
Yeah,
bud.
that's what I'm doing too. Sorry.
CJ
It's
Abrams, that's
CJ
who it is.
Abrams. Yeah, CJ
Sorry,
Abrams. I
CJ.
can't believe I forgot. Thanks, Bo. Thanks. But yeah, I think they've got a really solid team they're putting together.
Yeah,
The deal they gave to Gabriel Ruiz looks pretty bad now. They gave him an 8-year contract,
yeah, it's pretty
and
rough.
yeah, and he is just not taking the steps that need to be taken. So we'll see if maybe he improves. I mean, he's still pretty young too. So it's
Yeah,
I'll
all that to
say
say
this
that this team has more potential than people are giving them credit for, I think.
much more. Yeah. And I think the way I look at this team is a lot like the way I looked at the 2017 Braves, right? So there was some potential there for them to take another step and bring up some other guys. They did that. The next season, they end up winning the division. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen for the Nationals next season. Uh, the NL East was pretty weak in 2018, so that had a lot to do
Yeah, it
with it.
was.
But there's the what I would say is if you're a Nationals fan, watching baseball is going to be a lot more fun in 2025 than it was in 2024. I'll say that. And really, that's what we're all trying to do, right? Just have fun, watch our
Yeah,
teams. So that's
yeah.
always good. And then we'll get to the final soapbox of the afternoon, and that's it. The Marlins are. I put that the Marlins are the real A's here, and what I mean by that is that everyone gives the A's so much crap for not spending money and for trading their players away and all that stuff. But at least they have periods of contention, right? I mean, they will add, or they will make the postseason for a few years in a row with a core, and then then they'll trade some guys away and stuff, and they'll rebuild. It's
Yeah.
not ideal, but it's better than what the Marlins do. The
Yeah.
Marlins they're just perennially not good, and they
Uh-huh.
will get a bunch of good players. Now, they made the postseason a couple times in the last few years. In 2020, they definitely would not have made it in a full season. But in 2023, they managed to sneak in. They just got obliterated by the Phillies. But then they're right back to rebuilding again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
I
I'm
hate it because
confused by
I've
it.
got
They started picking up steam and had a great
mhm,
general manager, and then
yeah.
I don't know
And
what
then
happened. Kim ended up stepping down, and
they pissed her off. They
it
did
just went.
something.
They clearly have their own agenda that I again, it's speculation, but it felt that way. It felt like this is what we want to do. We don't care if you want the team to be good. Um,
Right.
I don't know. They haven't had a good team since that Marlins team that I mean, not that they haven't had good teams. I don't you know what I'm saying? They haven't had like a powerhouse team since their outfield was Yelich, Ozuna,
Right.
and Stanton. I mean,
Yeah.
what a good team that was.
It
But it
was. It
doesn't
was
look
a
like we're
great
gonna get
team.
back there for a while.
And I mean, now I understand that the passing of Jose Fernandez really hurt that core,
Hmm.
but they were a few years past that in 2017, 2016, 2017, and then they just decided to let everybody go. And
Hmm.
and I was just about to say that, Bo. Bendix did do really good in his trades that he made last year. He got a lot of really good players. He managed to get Connor Norby from the Orioles. He got Davison De Los Santos uh, from the D-backs.
Hmm.
He got a lot of good pieces, but we'll
And I
see how
think they
that
traded
works out.
Brujan. Brujan was
They
traded for
did.
Matt Mervis, right?
Yeah, from Matt Mervis. That's
Trying to
what I was
remember.
just about to
Okay.
say. Yep. That was like one of their 3 additions this season. They added Cal Quantrill, Eric Wagaman, which Wagaman is not even on a guaranteed deal. It's a split contract. And then Matt Mervis. And Matt Mervis is kind of he's one of those prospects who came up and just didn't reach that potential that the Cubs were hoping to see. So the Cubs cut him loose for Vidal Brujan, who, to say it nicely, is not good. So, I mean, I I want to see the Marlins do good
Hmm.
because it's good for baseball, but it's pretty sad. Oh yeah, Robbie Snelling. I did forget about that guy. They did get kind of a pretty big haul in the Tanner Scott deal
Oh,
because
they traded him at the right
a
time for sure.
yes, they did. And AJ Preller is a madman, and he gives up too much in every trade. It's crazy. And then somehow, somehow, a couple years later, he has all the stuff to do it again. So,
Yep.
I mean, tip your cap to them being able to
Yeah.
keep
Padres are in
producing
a
that
tough
talent.
spot anyway.
They are in a tough spot as well. So,
Yeah, main thing I
um,
do like to point out with the Marlins, I mean, we've seen their starters tear up the Braves sometimes.
yep.
I mean, Sandy, obviously, he's coming back. We'll see if he's healthy. They definitely need him back. I mean, we've
Braxton
seen
Garrett's out. He's injured.
Max Meyer. I mean, there was a couple games he pitched last year. I'm like, the Braves can't hit him. He's not that good.
Yeah, he carved
But you
us
can
up,
see the
man.
potential. And
Yep.
then who else? Ryan Weathers. I think he did okay against us too.
Yeah.
Not big names,
Yeah.
but again, it's just when you look at it, you're like, I mean, it's fine. But
Yeah.
they could use a big guy up there that's gives Sandy a
Yeah.
little bit of cushion.
Yeah. The one big name is Sandy Alcantara, and
Yeah, that's it.
it's I don't know. We'll see if he's even there next year.
Yeah, I'm with
Uh,
Bo on there. They might as well just trade him at this point and see what they can get.
yep, I agree. I 100% agree. I like I said, I wrote down some of the names that they got rid of this offseason, right?
Hmm.
Um, Lazardo, Berger, Bethencourt. We know Bethencourt. Forrest Wall. Forrest Wall was a
Oh
free agent
yeah,
for
that's
them,
right.
and he signed a minor league deal with the Padres, I believe.
Yeah.
That would make me sad if I were a Marlins fan. So list of players.
You gotta love it, man. Microphone hates you today.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, I'm just going to finish it with my headphone speaker. But this is a list of names that I wrote down that would make me sad if I were a Marlins fan, because it's sad. Uh, Josh Bell, Jazz Chisholm, Brian De La Cruz, Luis Ariz, Trevor Rogers, Jesus Luzardo, Tanner Scott, AJ Puck, and Jake Berger have all been traded away in the last calendar year. Really,
That's crazy.
I say the last calendar year because Arise was traded in May, I believe, which was a weird time for a trade like that to go down. But the vast majority of that has been just since the deadline last year.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's full scale like fire sale right there. So
Yeah. I looking at their payroll, it's crazy to see. They have a current payroll allocation of 47 million and projected 62 million. That's active roster payroll currently.
yeah, and
That's God, that blows my mind.
yeah, they're gonna be in a spot soon where the Players Association is
They're
gonna have
30th in
to.
tax. Yeah,
Yep,
they're dead last in tax, 64 million with 25 million active. That's insane, man.
yep. It's just
Can't get worse than that.
it's crazy, and I don't understand why. I mean, of course, yes, they have issues with attendance. It is what it
Yeah,
is. But if you spend more money, more people will come watch your baseball team. That's
yeah.
and
They were
I
packed when they were good, so
and I am a proponent for a salary cap in this sport. A lot of people don't like that. That's fine. But what the Marlins are doing is 10 times worse than what the Dodgers are doing or what the Mets are
yeah.
doing. It's
That's why I'm
just
shocked that Major League Baseball is even considering a potential franchise in Orlando. Like, look, your two
I
Florida teams are
didn't
already struggling as it is. Well, Orlando's been pitched as
I
a
didn't
potential
I didn't even know
location,
that.
but yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
think
way
that would be
with the way baseball's performed in the state. I don't see it.
yeah. I agree. That would be a bad idea. Bad idea. It's crazy that baseball has performed that way in Florida. I'm from Florida. I was a huge baseball fan. There's a lot of baseball fans in Florida.
Yeah, I don't
Not in
know.
South
Can't make
Florida,
sense
I
of it.
guess. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's pretty much all we had for today. So, it's a little bit longer show than what we would usually do, but we had a lot to go over with the National League East. It's a very interesting division. And we'll probably continue doing this with other divisions. Probably going to go through all 6 of them, talk about what's going on with those guys and stuff. Um,
I
yeah, you
agree,
know what, Bo?
though. Nashville's
I
going to happen.
yep, Nashville has to happen, man. My dad goes to Nashville all the time. He loves it. That place is exploding right now.
Yeah,
So it's a
it'll
really
hurt.
good
It's
spot.
it's going to be weird having a team, interrupting the Braves market like that, but
It
it'll
will.
be good.
But I don't think
It'll
it's
be
going to be
good.
that big of a deal. Yeah, and the Braves, their their fan base is pretty solid. So that they'll be fine.
Yeah, I
It's
guess they
not
got
gonna
a few other states to work with. It's fine.
right, yeah. So all right. Well, again, Bo, we appreciate your participation today. You were awesome.
Absolutely.
So and we appreciate you guys coming out and watching. Uh Stay tuned for more Beanball Buzz coming real soon. Have a good day, guys.
Later.